So, we're going to start today with a speaker who, I don't know if it's here. Yes, you are. Okay, awesome. So, I'm going to introduce him, Sebastian Sogamoso. He's a software developer that enjoys pair programming and has a passion for teaching. He works as a software engineer at Cookpad, helping make everyday cooking fun. And in his free time, he's involved on the local software development groups and organizes RubyConf Colombia. He enjoys a good cup of Colombian coffee each morning, and I'm guessing he's Colombian like me. Awesomeness. So let's give him a good round of applause to Sebastian, please, and we'll start with the day.
Hello. Cool. I think we're set. Okay, I think we're all set. So, I know this first lot of the day is tough. I see that a lot of people is missing. Probably everyone had a really good night yesterday, so they're still not ready to be here. But since you're here, you're gonna have it. You're in for a treat. So, this is not working. Okay, yeah, so hola. My name is Sebastian. As Lucia said, I'm from Colombia. That's my Twitter handle, and I like it when people tweet to me during my talks. I work at a company called Cookpad, which is kind of like a recipe sharing site, which looks pretty much like a social network, I would say. It has like huge traffic, almost like 100 million unique visitors a month. And I also help organize a Ruby conference in Colombia, which is going to be next 8th and 9th of September. It would be great if some or all of you could go and even like talk to people. So we're going to open CFP pretty soon, probably in around 1 or 2 weeks. So I'm really happy to be here. Speaking my account is my first time here, and one of the things that made me really happy that I have like my own luchador avatar, which is pretty cool. And it's my second time in Mexico, and I love being here. And there are two main reasons why I love being here in Manzanillo specifically. The first one is that I have to confess that Mexican food is my favorite type of food. I love tacos, burritos, and I can eat Mexican food all day, every day. And the second thing that I think is pretty cool about being here is that there's a town with the best name ever to be closed. It's called Barra de Navidad. So for no one speaking Spanish, full translation would be like Christmas bar. Can you imagine that? Like Christmas bar, so basically like having Christmas all year long. And you know what the best part is? That's really close. It's just like only 50 kilometers away, something like that. So I heard, yesterday I remember that the organizers were saying that they were looking for a new venue next year, so that could be a good choice. Okay, so if you look at the program, the name of this talk is supposed to be Refactor yourself, improving yourself so that you can help others improve. And to be honest, I don't know what I was thinking when I came up with that name. It's kind of boring, it's long. So in order to Katrina's talk, I'm going to do the bait and switch of conference talks. And I'm going to rename this talk and just scratch all of the last part of it. Let's just call it Refactor itself. So to start this talk, I'm going to tell you a personal story, so that's me. And if you look at me there, you would certainly expect for my parents to look something like this. So this story in particular involves my mom, that's there on the right. So around 10 years ago, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which is like a brain disorder that causes unusual shifts in mood, energy, activity levels, and the ability to carry out like day-to-day tasks. So basically, like a healthy person will like move around like, I don't know, an edge, you could say. It goes up and down, changes through time, but the changes are not huge, are not really big. But a person with bipolar disorder has like really big mood swings, and you could probably look something like that. So in particular, my mom has bipolar type 2 disorder, which is defined by like a pattern of long depressive episodes and short manic episodes. There's like type 1 bipolar, which is very similar, but mood swings are faster, and also like there's a tendency toward more manic cycles, which is like one of the main differences with type 2. So this type of like mood swings are caused by a chemical imbalance in your brain, people's brain. And so going back to like my mom's story, she's been like in treatment for this illness for like a long time. So she's been through several therapists. She's taken like a lot of different medications to treat her bipolar disorder, and even like went to like electroconvulsive therapy. And all of that has taken a significant toll on her life. It has affected her ability to be productive in many of the stuff she has to do. It has temporarily affected her memory, her social life, and most importantly, it has significantly affected her happiness and happiness of the people around her. So I'm really close to my mom, being like by her side, like through this journey, and see her go through the highs and lows, and like by being with her all this time, like I realized how important it is to be as open as possible, like if you have a mental illness, or if you suspect you have one. Especially after like a few years, there were two things that I always keep thinking of, that were always like on the back of my mind, and that actually motivated me to give this talk. The first one is that there's a lot of stigma or taboo around mental health issues, and that needs to change. And the second one is that, like I was wondering, like, do I suffer from the same thing? I mean, how possible is it that I could inherit this? So there was like these thoughts like were more recurrent for me when I was like going through rough patches of work. So like after a few times having like rough patches of work, I started to get more interested in like seeing what could be happening to me. So I went to talk to my good friend Google, and I started like I googled what bipolar disorder was, and started learning about the symptoms. I actually found like a really good talk that a developer called Greg Bogus, I think is how you pronounce his last name, gave about a really similar topic to this. Basically, yeah, about this same topic, and it's called Depths and Depression. I really recommend you go and look at it. It's a great talk. And after reading some stuff, like some of the symptoms hit close home for me. So there were some symptoms that were similar to what I was going through. I was procrastinating a lot. To give you an example, I was working on projects where I had like a few weeks span to work on something, and I let like time pass or not making any progress. This created like a cycle for me, like of anxiety and feeling like a failure basically, which created more stress because I wasn't making any progress. And instead of like helping me, like triggering me to do the work that I had to do, actually weirdly created an inability on me to get started on the stuff I was supposed to be doing. So then what happened is that then when the deadline was imminent, like I would, for some reason, like normally just get a burst of energy and focus, and like I just push to work and like for long hours and sleep really little like time for the like I don't know the few days before the deadline was due. But there was like, I mean, this was really costly for me. It ended up causing me to like stop enjoying my job that I really liked, that I used to love actually, and it created like a sense of guilt. I felt very guilty, like because I feel like I was being irresponsible, that I wasn't happy with what I had, but as I like try to rationalize that, I feel like my life was great, I had a really good life. So this internal struggle was really tough, and it was something that I wasn't talking to anyone about. And in retrospect, to me, it's really obvious that I shouldn't be like dealing with all of this alone, but at the moment it wasn't that obvious to me. So I decided to talk to my wife, which at the time was my girlfriend. We were married, and I had been keeping all these concerns from her, which was she was the closest person to me, and I was feeling like what she would think about me or about the whole situation. Basically, she was totally aware about my mom's illness, but I haven't talked about her this specific thing that was on my mind at the time. So when I talked to her, I felt like a great relief. She was really supportive, and she encouraged me to make an appointment with a therapist. So I did. I went to the appointment. There was a lot of talking. I mentioned my mom's bipolar disorder and my concerns. We had a couple sessions. I had to take a test that was more like a questionnaire than a test actually. And at the end, during the process, the therapist told me that I didn't really seem to have any bipolar or any chronic health illness, and that I didn't need any medication, fortunately for me. But the complicated thing with diagnosis mental illness is that there's no blood test that can accurately tell you if you have a disease or not. It definitely requires a lot of talking and being really open to your therapist and telling them what do you think your symptoms are, and he'll ask you a lot, or he or she will ask you a lot of questions that will allow them to have a better diagnosis of your situation. So the therapist, although that was really good news for me, the therapist also mentioned that I was more likely than the average person to suffer from depression. And he mentioned something that changed my perspective about the whole thing. So basically, he explained something, and it's that there are two factors that determine how likely you are to have a mental illness. So one is your genetics, and the other one is your environment. So basically, genetics is pretty self-explanatory. It's what you get from your parents. So he explained that there are no accurate numbers on how likely you are to inherit something like bipolar disorder from a parent, but also and he was also clear that anyway we don't have any control over this whatsoever. So then he talked about the environment. So the good thing about the environment is that it's something that we have a lot of control over. So we can mostly choose where we work, especially like as developers, we're really lucky or privileged in that sense. We can choose who we hang out with, where we live. We can choose we can control a lot of stuff in our environment. And you mentioned something really important, and it's that the key for having a good environment is having healthy habits. So these having healthy habits can considerably lower the chances of getting having such things as depression. So habits. At that moment, what I understood that habit was I had a really limited understanding of what a habit was. So to me, habit was stuff you did regularly. That's all it was. If you wanted to change a habit, you needed a shitload of willpower in order to change that. So dealing with procrastination, I knew that willpower was not of my stronger traits. So I resorted back to one of my old habits, searching everything in Google. So I searched for how to create and have good habits. I found really good information this time. So while reading through the stuff I found, there was something that struck me as I learned more about it. And it was a discovery made by 3 researchers at Duke University. And it said something like approximately 45% of every behaviors tend to repeat at the same location almost every day. And in other words, what they were trying to say is that almost half of the decisions we make every day are not conscious decisions, are just habits. So almost half of our life, we could say, is just decided by the habits we have. So habits have a huge impact on life. So it was mind-boggling for me, and it made it really clear why the therapist was so insisted to talk somehow about how good habits or healthy habits, how important they were. So let's start by defining what a habit is. So there's a story that's from the 90s. So in a department at MIT that was called Brain and Cognitive Sciences, a lot of people were doing heavy studying on the science of habit. And this story starts with a rat. And well, actually not a cool rat like this one. I don't know if any of you remember this cartoon. I really liked it when I was little. So it actually involved several lab rats like this one. So what the scientists did is that they designed a dish-shaped maze like this one. It was the dumbest maze that you could possibly imagine. And what they did is that they inserted some sensors I don't know I don't remember the amount, but it was a ton of sensors on the brains, and they started looking at what happened as they went to the maze. So the first time the rat was put on the maze, and then the door was open, the rat took so wait, I forgot to mention it's probably really ugly, but on the top corner of the maze there's a piece of chocolate, and the whole idea of it is to make the rat go from the beginning of the maze to the piece of chocolate. Right? So so the first time the rat was put on the maze, the rat was really lazy. He was just basically bouncing against the walls and kind of slowly walking to the end of the maze. And when it got to the end of the maze, you look at the chocolate, but it actually turned the other way around and went to the other end and stayed there for a little while, and then eventually finally decided to go to the chocolate and eat it. It took the rat approximately 30 minutes the first time. So by looking at the brain activity of the rat, they got something similar to this. So basically, there's a big line there where there was a click. Then as they like the first half was when they were going through the first section, then the second half of the brain scanner was the second section, and then when you see that the rat gets to the chocolate, there's like an increased brain activity. So after like putting the rat a lot of times on the maze, over like 100, around 150 actually, they started to see a change. So they started to see that the brain scan, the brain activity actually looked more like this. So there was like a big change there, like you can see it there in the red rectangle. So basically, what they started noticing is that the rat was now so used to the maze, like knew the maze so well, that on the middle part of like going through the maze, basically the brain turned off. And this was like really revealing for them because they realized that basically our brain, when our brain knows how to perform something by repeating a lot of times, it basically doesn't need like as much bandwidth or a lot of processing usage, and that's basically how habits are formed. So when we like kind of like shut our brain down or go on autopilot, and we don't need to be as conscious about what we're doing, that's what scientists started calling habit. So basically, if you, by looking at what they were doing, they modeled it by doing something like this. So basically, they came up with something they call the habit loop. So the habit loop looks like this. So there's a cue that triggers are routine, which is something that you're already used to. That's where basically the brain shuts off. And then there's a reward. In that moment, like basically the brain processing power kicks back in. So if you look at the image there, where the chocolate is reached by the rat, even when it was an autopilot, like the brain activity increased again. So they realized that this habit loop was how habits were created and how habits look in the brain. So by reading about this, I decided to experiment with myself as one of these rats and attack like the habit I wanted to change the most, which was like procrastination. So by analyzing how I was procrastinating and when I was procrastinating, I noticed that I always tend to do it at the same time of the day. So it was like kind of like an hour after lunch for me, which was around like 2:30 p.m. or 2 p.m. And then almost always around that time, procrastination started because I opened Twitter and started like going to Twitter, like catching up on Twitter basically for a long time, like reading the links that people tweeted, seeing the conversation that people were having, and that snowballed into like losing basically like almost the rest of the evening, the rest of the afternoon, and almost going into the evening. And then what I realized is that like since I work remotely, I work from home, I don't have like a lot of I don't have any like teammates sitting around who to chat with. So what I thought that was happening is basically that I was like trying to socialize with people. That was my reward. So I thought that I was like I feel like I was interacting with the outside world, although I was like alone in my home working, sitting in my computer. So it made me think if what I was actually looking was to socialize more with people, and there was like snowballing and making me like lose a lot of time. I could probably change stuff and like improve by trying to limit it to a certain period of time. So basically, what I did is like I had an app on my laptop, and in which I could like unblock stuff for like a certain period of time. So basically, I unblocked Twitter for like 15 minutes. I started with 30 minutes, I then reduced it to 15 minutes. But what I noticed is that like it was so easy just to like close the app and just like continue socializing on the internet via Twitter, this really didn't work for me. So I was having, the queue was still there, and it was probably always going to be there. I couldn't change that. And I knew what I was looking for, what the reward was, so I was trying to change the routine. And by changing the routine, I expected it to change it in such a way that I wouldn't end up procrastinating for the rest of the day. So then I realized that what I wanted was to socialize with other people. Something I could do is just like pick up the phone and call someone because I didn't have anyone near me to call. So I could go and knock on the neighbor's door, but that would probably have been weird. So I just decided that it was better to call someone. So I would call a friend who I didn't talk to for a long time, or call my wife or my mom or whoever. But also this was really nice. I started to get back in touch with people that I hadn't talked to in a while, and it worked. But it wasn't. Can you hear me? Hello. Yeah, it's better this way. So this was nice, but also I felt like sometimes I was calling people on not the best time. It was when people was working and probably the most busiest. So I also realized that basically if I want to socialize, maybe working alone from home wasn't the best solution for me. So what I then did was start to go into a co-working place where I knew some people, and then where I could just stand up at 2:30 p.m. every day and go and talk to someone. Oh my God. Okay. For 15 minutes, 30 minutes, what I wanted to choose, and that worked out much better for me. And also being around other people being productive also had another side effect, which was basically also encouraging me to be more productive. So this really worked really well for me and helped me be more productive at work, be more satisfied with what I did at the end of the day, and not have to deal every day with the anxiety and all the stress of not moving forward or progressing on the stuff I should be doing at work. Basically, not feeling like a failure, which is how I was feeling before. So, what I noticed is that basically the best way to deal with habits or with things you know you want to change is to plan in advance. So basically, you can plan ahead a decision. You can plan ahead of time a decision that you're going to make when the cue happens, when the trigger occurs. So it's really important to have a really specific plan. Not saying okay, I want to be productive. So when I realize that I'm going to get distracted by looking at Twitter or trying to be social online, I'll just go back to work. I tried that for a long time. It never worked. So basically, realizing, being more mindful about what was going on and why I was being so procrastinated, or I was procrastinating so much, helped me realize what the cue was for me, what the actual reward I was looking for was, and then being able to change the routine so that it didn't affect my work. Basically, this is how you create willpower. So, willpower is not what will allow you to change your habits. It's basically making a system that allows you to change your habits, what will give you the willpower to make the decisions as automatic or as easy as possible, so that you don't have to exercise your willpower every time temptation arrives, call it somehow. Willpower is a limited thing that we all have, so it's like attention. So we could try to see 8 hours paying attention to talks in a row, but at some point we will just, our mind will wander off. So it's the same with willpower. It's just like a limited time thing we have, so the less we have to use it, the better, because the most we will be able to use it for things that are unexpected in a day. So to start wrapping things up, if you are interested in experimenting with changing your habits, there's like a really cool online course called somehow, which takes like 5 minutes a day. It's just called Tiny Habits, and you can check it out at tinyhabits.com. And it basically allows you to create new habits that take you really, really little time every day. And I've done it like a bunch of times, and it has helped me like do things that I've always wanted to, and I like never had the willpower to do. And it's pretty simple, so I really recommend it. It lasts like 1 week. You subscribe. I mean, you just sign up the week before, and then on Monday it starts, and they will like follow up on you every day from Monday to Friday. Yeah. So going back to mental illness and trying to be clear about what my intention was talking about habits, is that like I want to be really clear that habits are not like the cure to mental illness. And that's really important. Like, if you are dealing with any type of like mental issues, and you suspect you might have a mental issue, you should definitely go to a therapist, or at least start by talking to someone else, like your life partner, a close friend. You can even talk to me if you want. My DMs on Twitter are open. And I also wanted to bring some attention to some great work that some people in our community are doing to raise awareness about mental health in the tech world. And so there are like 2 organizations, one that's called Open Sourcing Mental Health, which has like some really interesting forums in which you can like see discussions and also participate. And one called Prompt, which is basically which will basically try to arrange a speaker to speak at your event, at your local meetup or your conference about mental health if you reach out to them. Okay, that's all I got for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian. I don't know if people have questions for him. Any questions? No? Nothing?
So you touched base on the topic of kind of wandering around and how productivity increases when something like mental illness comes into place. But so I'm wondering, another thing you talked about is remotely working for a company, and that affects a lot of people, even if they don't have some type of a background with mental illness. Do you think that approach of remote work is effective because of this kind of situation that come into play? Or how would you, given that you experience this very close, how would you improve the experience of working remotely and making sure that the end goal for the company or the product or the customers is achieved in a better way? Because my concern is people that are working remotely, how effective they are, and how can we help them be more effective in your experience?
Okay, so to sum up what you said, like if I understood correctly, the question is how can you make working remotely something like viable for people that has mental issues or mental illness? So yeah, that's a good question. I think there are a bunch of things that you can do. One of them is like, to start with, a really simple thing is try to not work alone at your home. Try to find a working space, or it can even be a coffee shop or something where you're not alone. Being surrounded with more people helps, but that's not like definite solution. I think that's something that's more important is being open about it. So talking to your boss about it, like letting them know that that's a thing, and also your coworkers, so that first, like they, they can kind of like check on you and make sure that you're fine, and like follow up if they start noticing that you might not be acting as normal, and also. Yeah, I think that trying to find out what for you could be our habits basically that could will help you have like a healthier environment basically, which is what I was mentioning in the talk. And like talking about that, like one that my therapist really recommended is basically exercising. For anyone suffering from like a mental illness, I mean it's for it. Like not just for people with mental illness, for everyone. Like exercising is healthy. I mean, it's good. It will help you be healthy. But especially if you're suffering from mental illness, it will really help a lot. Okay, that's all I got.
Awesome. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Sebastian. Let's give him an applause, please.